Hello, everyone. Welcome back to an episode of Just Say Guay. I'm your host, George Guay. Today I'm joined by John Buccigross. You might know him from ESPN or the Frozen Four broadcasts or even the Overtime Challenge. But tonight he's here on Just Say Guay. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah, so last time I saw you, the Frozen Four was over. What was that weekend like for you, especially being in Boston?
Yeah, it was great. A great 5 days. We get there Tuesday night, and then on Wednesday we meet with all the teams, about 4 or 5 players on each team, then the coach, all four. So it's kind of a long day at the Garden, but it's a great way to get to know these kids, especially if some of them move on to the NHL and already kind of have a relationship with them in those short meetings. And then the hockey was great. The arena was buzzing. It's a great city to go out to dinner, and it was just really a good buzz to the city and to the event. So I think overall everyone has to be pretty happy.
Yeah, I was only there for the national championship, but definitely agree. It's amazing how much these kids have a turnaround to the pros in just a few days. But let's backtrack a bit to the beginning of the season. What were your expectations? I know that it was the first season off the pandemic with fans. I think the first time in college hockey history we had a super team, and we had a new school defending the title with UMass. What did you think going in?
Yeah, certainly, once you saw UMass play early this year, you could, they certainly were a team who could get back. Minnesota State returned everybody from the Frozen Four team the year before. Certainly Michigan thought they would be there with their 7 number 1 draft picks. Thought St. Cloud State had a real good chance to go back, as they also were in Pittsburgh, and they brought everybody back, but just a disappointing year for them. So that opened up a slot. Minnesota had a good team last year, and they added a couple pieces this year who were good, like Matthew Nyes, and so not too big of a surprise that they made it as well. So 4 high-scoring teams, and they all made it, and then Denver as well. And Denver was a team that didn't know too much about to start the year, but obviously they really congealed. They had some freshmen who really contributed, and then Carter Savoy steps up. You never know who's going to make those jumps from freshman to sophomore, or how much the freshmen will contribute. You don't know for sure. So in the end, they got hot at the right time, and really were good all year. But and in the end, they got it's a great program, and they got another national championship.
Yeah, for sure. And you got to give them credit for, obviously heating up at the right time and the most important time. I was just excited to watch college hockey again. I think watching it last year with no fans. I know there was fans at the Frozen Four, but it wasn't, the same capacity. But just to have it back to normalcy, seeing places like Minnesota or North Dakota that really packed their arenas, it's special to see again. So were you anticipating one of the Michigan players to be in the Hobey Baker Final 3? I mean, I think just the fact that how talented those guys in the first 5 were, and they're all playing with great players. Were you expecting at least one of them to be there?
Yeah, no one just really, maybe Luke Hughes, because certainly as a freshman defenseman to put up the numbers he did was pretty amazing. But again, when you have so many players on the team, they probably take votes from one another. Matty Beniers certainly probably got some support, but maybe his numbers weren't gaudy enough, like Jack Eichel's were when he was a freshman and ended up winning it. So there's no one really stepped out in college hockey and was the definite number 1 star. So it was a little more deep. And then, like I said, maybe they took votes from each other on Michigan, and that opened the door. And so it was, for Dryden McKay, a culmination of a great college career. And I'm sure he would have liked to have added a national championship, but and looked like they had it after 2 periods. But man, that game turned around in a hurry. Really surprising how it turned around, and they just got rattled after the first goal, and they were on their heels the rest of the game after being on their toes the first 5 periods of the Frozen Four.
Yeah, I really thought that game was going into overtime when it was 1-1, and then the one-timer on the power play that put it 2-1. I think that's really thought that Minnesota State was in trouble. So what was the team that surprised you the most? To me, it was UConn finishing second in Hockey East. They were right there in overtime to go to the tournament. And I know in the Hockey East preseason standings, they weren't expected to go far compared to the other teams. That was my surprise team. What was yours?
Yeah, that's probably a good call. To play as well as they did, and Mike Cavanaugh, who could be a candidate for the Boston College job. He was Jerry York's big time recruiter when they were winning those national championships, and he's shown at Connecticut he can build something. They are building a rink on campus, and maybe he wants to see that through. But a job like Boston College doesn't open very much, so that'll be interesting to keep an eye on that. and to see if Connecticut can keep that momentum with Kavanaugh. It'll probably at least get him a raise if he doesn't go to Boston College. Just the threat of it could get him more money. But yeah, I think Connecticut's a good call. They were a surprise team, almost Ohio State. They kind of faltered, just missed late. Northeastern kind of came on and ended up having a pretty good team. They should be good next year. Looks like a lot of guys are coming back. Get a couple maybe transfers as well. And Northeastern with, Devin Levi could be a team to look at in Hockey East next year.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, Hockey East, it's just crazy how much, teams are in the mix now. When I was a freshman at PC in 2015 off the championship, it was really BC, BU, Providence, and Northeastern, and now it's Merrimack, UConn, Maine can squeak in. So what team was your shock? For me, I guess say Boston University, just because they were bringing back so many key pieces, especially like Jay O'Brien. They bring in Ty Gallagher from the US NTDP program. Comesso comes back. They did play well at the end, but I think they got off to a hot start at the wrong time. It wasn't a full season kind of thing. What was your shock team?
Yeah, that was because they, like you said, they got a slow start, then they just started going, and I thought they would just keep that momentum going. They played fast and hard, and I thought they were turning it around. But yeah, because when you do that, there's not a lot of margin for error when you finish. And in the Big Ten, again, a team like Penn State, I thought they would start to really recruit some like number one draft picks by now. That's great rank, good campus, kind of centrally located. They could recruit from Western PA, New England, even like Canada. Wouldn't be that long of a trip for parents who want to come see their kids play. So I really thought Penn State by now, more like an overview of a disappointment. I thought there'd be a bigger impact. I thought they'd really start to get some real high end talent and continue on kind of the momentum, because they kind of came out of the blocks, pretty strong, and now they've kind of, they've kind of gone stagnant. So curious to see what happens with Penn State here going forward. It's such a great brand, and now that Minnesota, Bob Motzkau seems to have found his footing there now. I think they're just going to continue to be good. Wisconsin's down, Michigan State's down. So Michigan's going to come right back. They're going to be on a heater probably for a while as well, getting these high end people. And in Minnesota as well, I think Logan Cooley, if he does play college next year and doesn't go right to the league, he's going to be a high impact guy. So yeah, I think Motzkau got his footing in the Big Ten right now. And now it's just around the other schools, can they keep up?
Yeah, Penn State's definitely getting interesting. I agree with Michigan. I've seen the guys that are coming in, and the guys that are coming back, especially Luke Hughes, and they're not going to move anywhere from where they are. So what were your thoughts on Jerry York retiring? I think it's just such a great story for his career. How many pro players he's produced, the national championships. I grew up in the area, and everyone knows how much of a great guy he is. I'm sure he's turned down plenty of offers to go coach in the pros, and it's always been all about BC the whole time. So how different do you think it's going to be without him next year?
Yeah, I mean, man, just a great life for him in hockey. To get the job opens up. He's obviously began in Clarkson, then went to Bowling Green, and won a national championship there. And then Mike Milbury, I think was the one who got the job, and then decided not to do it like 2 months later, and that's how the door opened for Jerry York. And then he got back to his alma mater, and then just again, what a run he went on, bringing them to prominence and making them the factory for a while, and multiple national championships. And yeah, so for him, probably just a great hockey life, the last 20 25 years. And now he's still involved with Boston College. He'll be a great fundraiser for them, a good weapon in that regard. But I think it was the perfect time for him, to step aside, give someone else a chance to come in, breathe some fresh air in there. And now it's just that's an amazing job to have BC and BU open up at the same time, and even Michigan State, who's obviously been down for a while, but they were a power at one time too. So it's going to be a very interesting summer, an opportunity for people to get these great jobs. And then if those jobs are taken by guys in smaller programs, and those jobs open up, and that's there's only a few of these jobs, just over 60. So it's not a lot. So when one opens up, it's a pretty big deal. So we'll see how that shakes out. But it's a great job. But yeah, Jerry, a great hockey life, and he can relax a little bit now, but I'm sure he'll still be there and helping the program, raising money, and certainly best of luck to him. He's an absolute legend.
Yeah, for sure. And in the Boston area, you grew up here, the rivalry between BU and BC. It's, just the respect at the end of the day is what matters the most, and you really truly see that in that type of rivalry. So, what are your thoughts on the World Junior Championships? Because we saw so many key pieces from that USA team that went to the pros. Guys like Matty Beniers, Thomas Bordelot. I know he obviously hasn't played in the World Junior Championships yet, but probably would have this time around if he could. But and Canada loses Owen Power probably. Jake Sanderson too is not able to play. What are your thoughts on how this tournament's going to shake out?
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. First of all, we're going to have 2 tournaments in 5 months. That's kind of weird. Have one in August, then one in December. But I'm kind of curious if some teams will let players play in this, even though obviously they've already signed NHL contracts or professional contracts, because they can still play in that tournament. They're eligible. And you figure, well, I mean, that's a good way for a guy to get focused over the summer. He'll work out, maybe start working out in July, and you kind of, and they work out anyway, and then it gives them a little tournament in August. And, for some reason, if someone got a little injury, they got time to heal. So I just wonder if some of these teams will say, yeah, maybe it's good for these guys to, hey, play some more games and play a big tournament, a high end tournament. And whether it's, Owen Power or Matty Beniers, I'm kind of curious because, like if I was a GM, like I wouldn't let these guys go in December and middle of the season and that. But I would, if I was a GM, I could see the upside in letting an eligible guy go play and just, like I said, to have a tense competition. It's part of getting better at that age. You prepare for it. The practices will be good. They'll be sharp, come training camp time. Maybe they're afraid that it'd be make a long season even longer for some of these guys, but you could probably manage that. So I'm kind of curious to see that if some of these teams let them play.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the time is interesting. I go up to Canada every year for Christmas up in Quebec City, and during those times of the tournament, people are either out on the ice or skiing or they're watching the World Junior Championships. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
What it's like in the summer. So I want to get to Providence College. That's where I went to school. Big college hockey fan for that team. I broadcasted for the team my senior year. And what do you expect from the team for next year? They bring back 9 out of 10 top scorers. That's pretty much most of the team. They did lose Mike Callahan and goalie Jackson Stauber, but they did bring in a couple transfers to fill in those positions. But should this team have the expectations to shoot for the Frozen Four?
Yeah, it's probably, be in Tampa Bay this year or next year, the Frozen Four, April of 2023. So for a while there, Nate Lehman was going on a run, and I'm sure he's hungry to get back, and he'll certainly do what it takes and leave no stone unturned to try to find players and fill all those gaps and maybe check out the portal. But yeah, he's a young team, and so hopefully, I'm sure he's hoping to make that next step. But like we said, Connecticut's coming, and Hockey East is certainly competitive. UMass, we'll see where they, how their new recruits go. I know they weren't real happy with some of their recruiting. Obviously let go of a coach because of it, and so trying to find that again, that consistency of players coming in, because you see Wisconsin, they're kind of been down again. They were down for a while, and that led to the coaching change. Now they really haven't quite got their traction. So it's you don't want to go start going year after year without making the tournament. It's really what it's all about. So I think the Friars and Nate Lehman will probably come in very hungry. He'll probably be extra focused and ready to really ready to go and get off to a good start and push him hard to get back in that tournament.
Yeah, and I'm very excited for that season. So how much do you think it helps that Coach Lehman is coaching the World Junior Championship team? Because Providence is in an area where they're competing for a lot of the kids in the Boston area that want to go to BC or BU, and if not that, Northeastern or Harvard, because it's the other two Boston schools. Yeah. We are starting to get NTDP players. We got Patrick Moynihan, Brett Berard, Brady Berard. Is that a great step in the right direction for just in terms of recruiting for the school?
Yeah, I'm sure it does. If if a kid's watching and he sees Nate behind the bench and they win a gold medal, that's that's a big deal. And so I can't imagine that doesn't hurt at all. And you create relationships with certainly the national development program. You might have people talk well of you when a kid is trying to make a decision. U17, U6, all those young ages, if they haven't committed yet, usually they have by the time they get into that program. But certainly, any high profile situation like that can only help a coach. And his name has been talked about with possible NHL jobs. I think that helps Greg Carvel at UMass. The fact he was in the NHL for so long, coached Erik Karlsson at a young age. They basically become kind of a defenseman factory in college hockey. And so he's got the upper hand with that long NHL tenure that really helps. Jeff Jackson had it back in the day, Notre Dame's head coach. He has that on his resume. So that's a good thing to have. World Junior is not the NHL, but it's still a pretty high end, high tournament. So certainly it can't hurt maybe to get a kid here or there.
Yeah, definitely. He is producing a lot of pros, but so is UMass now, so is BC, so is BU, and we saw UMass did with Kyle McCarr in that story. So my last question has to do with the NHL. I know this is a surprise that being from Boston, I'm a huge Capitals fan, definitely because of Alex Ovechkin and seeing all those goals he scored growing up. And what do you think this team can do going into the playoffs? Because I think it's a wide open year for the league.
Yeah, they're interesting. Certainly Ovechkin's had a great year. They might play the Panthers in the first round, and they've kind of had the Panthers number a little bit. I was talking to Andrew Brunette, the Panthers head coach, yesterday, and he was talking about, hey, they can clog up that neutral zone a little bit. They got some big bodies. They got some veterans, Lars Eller, and they got people like Hathaway and Tom Wilson, obviously, and they can, they can frustrate a little bit. And certainly if any turnover, go back the other way when Ovechkin's on the ice, Kuznetsov, TJ Oshie is so crafty and wily. John Carlson's having a good year, good two-way year for the Capitals. So again, can't imagine the highest scoring team against that goaltending is a good bet to take the Capitals because they're going to be coming on. So whether it's Samsonov or Vanacek, they got to be red hot. They got to steal the series basically. And the question is, can they do that? Could maybe steal a game, but can they beat that team 4 out of 7, 4 out of 6? I wouldn't think so. But again, like you said, I think it's pretty open this year, and we're going to have upsets. You almost always have upsets. We didn't in college hockey this year. Last year we did, but this year was pretty much chalk. It was the good teams were the good teams, and maybe that's going to carry over to the NHL this year too. It's a high scoring season this year in the NHL. If that continues in the playoffs, that's going to reward the high scoring teams. And no one's more higher than Florida. So if that is the matchup, it'll be interesting. I imagine the Capitals might want to not avoid that, but obviously can't overtake the Bruins, and they might play Carolina or the Rangers. And so I'm not sure what they prefer, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Ovi takes it up to such an intense other level in the playoffs. I like players like that. Nathan McKinnon does that as well. They're like possessed, and that's the best part of playoff hockey. And I'm so glad ESPN, we're going to be doing obviously the playoff games, sharing the load with TNT, and then we'll have the Stanley Cup Finals on ABC. So that's starting May 2nd. So I'm looking forward to that, and I think we're doing all 8 game ones on ESPN. And then, so hope to be in a couple of arenas, hope to get a chance to do some play-by-play and some of this intense playoff atmosphere. I've never done a playoff game before in the NHL. I've done 9 Frozen Fours now, but, certainly looking forward to that, and looking forward to Ovi, as he takes his march towards Wayne Gretzky. It's going to happen, sooner than later. Than I think even sooner than I thought it was. The way he's going, he keeps lowering that goals per game needed in this 4-year contract he has left, and he's down now to 22 a year will break the record in the remaining 4 years. And if he gets 35, 36, he'll break it in 3 years. And so to me, it looks like more like 3.5 now when he'll surpass Gretzky. And I've always said he's more likely to score 1,000 than not break the record. I would, to me, that's a bigger surprise that he won't score 1,000 career goals. And because when this contract is done, I know some like to go back to the KHL, the Russians, but he could play till he's 42, 43. I don't see why not. And he could just pad that record because Austin Matthews is starting to come already. He's kind of right around Ovi. They share the same birthday, and he's kind of right around Ovi's rate. So you might want to, like Tom Brady, keep getting all those stats higher and higher, so I at least have these records for the rest of my life, while I'm alive, and because you hate to see him turn over quickly.
Yeah, definitely. What I like about that record is it seems like the Gretzky really wants him to break it, and
yeah,
that's something you don't see a lot from athletes who've hold a record for numerous decades. But yeah, I'm really excited for the playoffs with ESPN. You guys have done a great job. It's been fun to watch. But John, thanks for coming on my show. We'll stay in touch, and hoping to see you next year in Tampa.
Sounds great. Love doing it. Love college hockey, and thanks for you for loving hockey.
All right, no problem. Have a good one.